Technically, I'm in Şanlıurfa, which is about 50 kilometers north of the border. The implications of this deal is that it raises the stakes because of the strong prospect of a battle between the Turkish army and the Syrian government forces. One of the three towns that the Syrian Kurdish-led militia, the Syrian Democratic Forces, have said they will now hand over to the Syrian government forces is Kobani. And Kobani is right on the Turkish border. You can almost throw a stone from a window in Kobani into Turkey. Now, I can't see the Turkish army allowing the Syrian government forces to take that town. Another of the three towns is Manbij, and the Turkish government has been wanting to take over that town, has been saying it will throw the Kurds out of that town for years now.
At 5:30 this evening, officers responded to a shots fired call.
Chicago police gathered outside a Dunning apartment complex. What happened inside, the site of mass gun violence and the focus of an investigation.
When they arrived, they found 5 people shot.
Investigators say a 67-year-old retired construction worker who lived in the building for about 15 years left his apartment Saturday afternoon. He visited a nearby unit with fatal results.
When he walked into that neighbor's apartment, there were 4 people at the table eating dinner. For reasons we don't yet know, he opened fire on all 4 of those individuals, killing them all. Went upstairs to the 3rd floor where he confronted another woman who lives in the building, in the apartment building, and shot her as well.
Investigators recovered the 67-year-old's handgun and are looking into how he got it, adding the gunman has had anger management issues in the past, with neighbors complaining about his behavior, but nothing leading to the kind of violence seen inside the building Saturday night.
It seems like a moment of opportunity for Russia. President Vladimir Putin's trip to the Saudi capital Riyadh as tensions with main regional rival Iran grow, especially after this attack last month that took out 50% of Saudi Arabia's oil facilities. The Saudis say it was carried out by armed drones flying in from Yemen. They also say the drones were operated by Iran. The drones were able to breach the US-made Patriot missile air defense shield, and reports say that has left the Saudi leaders fuming. President Putin has been quick to offer a solution.
We are ready to provide assistance to Saudi Arabia to protect their country and their people, and it would be enough for the political leadership of Saudi Arabia to make a wise government decision, as the leaders of Iran did in their time by purchasing S-300, and as President Erdogan did by purchasing the latest S-400 Triumph air defense systems.
I spoke to President Erdogan for an hour today. Turkey does, of course, have justified security interest, but I believe, as does the federal government, that the offensive must be stopped in view of the grave humanitarian consequences.
DW reporter William Noah Glucroft joining me now in studio, and William has more on this. Now, look, Chancellor Merkel is known to be cautious when it comes to getting involved in any sort of international conflicts. What do you make of this phone call?
Cautious is to put it mildly. I mean, Angela Merkel has been in power for almost 15 years. There's almost no examples of her taking a leading or proactive role, especially when it comes to foreign policy, especially when it comes to military policy. Not only Angela Merkel, but Germany as a country does not tell other countries what to do, given its history of occupying other countries.
And yet this phone call.
So this is incredible. And on top of that, the threat that Germany faces from Turkey, of the refugees that Turkey is keeping there as part of an EU-Turkey deal, and that Angela Merkel still makes this phone call despite the risks, the political and just PR risks of how it looks, is really can't be understated.
we've heard the officer from the bomb squad earlier at this news conference describing that this device is used elsewhere in the world by terrorists. However, the Hong Kong police force for now is not treating this case as a terrorist case as yet. But of course, they are very concerned. This is the first time, like you said, that a homemade device was used during the protests. It is basically a mobile phone linked by remote control. So what happened was over the weekend at around 8 p.m. in Mong Kok area, the device was planted in the bushes area. And when the police van drove past it, the device went off. The police said that they believe that this was meant to hurt police officers. The distance between the moving van as well as the device was around 2 meters. So at that time, no one was injured.
We begin with a surprise announcement from the Justice Ministry. After only 35 days since taking office, South Korea's embattled Justice Minister Cho Kuk says he is stepping down.
The resignation comes amid a probe into corruption allegations surrounding Cho's family. The announcement also came just hours after he further unveiled a set of reform measures for the nation's prosecution.
Justice Minister Cho Kuk offered to step down on Monday amid the ongoing investigation into corruption allegations against his family. In a written statement handed out to reporters on Monday afternoon, Cho said that he felt apologetic to the public regarding the ongoing probes into his family, adding that he will now put down everything in order to take care of his family. Speaking to reporters as he left the Justice Ministry for the last time as the ministry's head, Cho said that his role in bringing about prosecutorial reform has ended, and he asked for the public to support the government and his successor in completing the reform.
It's easy to find the oil that's washing up on the beaches in the northeast of Brazil. This environmental disaster is spread over 2,000 kilometers, contaminating some of Brazil's most beautiful beaches. The state of Alagoas has been hit especially hard, and the cleanup is a huge challenge.
We are part of multiple agency efforts to monitor the coastline, which include the army, city, and state officials. Some oil stains appear in the north of the state, but it's worse in the south.
What's more difficult to determine is where is the oil coming from. There are many theories. Could it have come from rogue oil tankers in the Atlantic Ocean, as some suspect? Or could the oil be from a German ship sunk off the coast of Brazil during World War II, as some Brazilian researchers have concluded?
The land underneath this house was swept away and the foundations couldn't hold. Typhoon Hagibis showed little mercy as it swept across Japan. Authorities spent the morning rescuing residents trapped by the overwhelming torrents of water.
Police, firefighters, the Japan Coast Guard, and 27,000 self-defense forces troops are currently undertaking rescue and relief activities.
They'll be kept busy once the rescues are complete. The typhoon has caused significant damage to Japan's famous Shinkansen bullet trains. Millions across the country were put on standby to evacuate.
The sky may be blue and the sun may be out, but for the residents here in Kawasaki, the cleanup is only just beginning. To give you some sense of just how much flood water there was, this car was inundated and the water went to above the windows of this house.
Spain's top court has sentenced 9 Catalan separatist leaders to prison for their role in the region's failed bid for independence. The Supreme Court delivered sentences of between 9 and 13 years in prison. Former Catalonian Vice President Oriol Junqueras received the longest at 13 years for the crime of sedition. Catalonia held an illegal referendum in 2017 in a bid to break away from Spain. Activists have threatened mass protests in response to the verdict.
Well, Adrian, the significance is that it doesn't carry the full weight of that more serious charge of rebellion. That was apparently what one of the public prosecutors was actually calling for. But there had been leaks in the Spanish press over the weekend that there would be more of that charge, but it's still a hefty charge.
Mr. Speaker, the Queen commands this Honourable House to attend Her Majesty immediately in the House of Peers.
My government's priority has always been to secure the United Kingdom's departure from the European Union on the 31st of October. My government intends to work towards a new partnership with the European Union based on free trade and friendly cooperation.